Hey.
Well, when I read your work on a I think it's pronounced wee. I believe that's just my guess on how it's pronounced if you
You
put
are
it all
correct.
together. Great. Um, it's very bleak. It's very bleak of late. It's very murky. It's not a good Celtics present, certainly. And yet the Celtics are going to have two All Stars. Do you think that they deserve to have two All Stars, or do you think that that says more about how we reward veterans and guys who have been there in the past?
You know, deserves got nothing to do with it, really. I mean, on one hand, you can make the case that Pierce and Rondo absolutely deserve to be on the All Star. It says a lot about the East too. I mean, when I was doing
Mm-hmm.
my who should be on the All Star team post a couple weeks ago, you could have made a case for like 20 different guys, really, and none of them would have been so outlandish. I frankly thought Josh Smith should have been on the All Star team after Joe Johnson got hurt. I thought he should have been on it anyway. Um, to me, I would have had Rondo and Josh Smith on the All Star team over Joe Johnson and Luol Deng, but you can make a case for a lot of different guys, and I think Rondo has played at an All Star level, if that answers the question. But no, the way All Stars get rewarded is to steal a Beckley phrase, kind of squirrely. So I mean, it's one of those things where it means something. It means something when you say someone is a 3 or 4 or 5 time All Star, but at the same time, it doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot.
Are you interested in the POW sweepstakes? Your doppelganger, or at least quasi doppelganger. Do you think that that would be? Do you think that that would be a good move for them to make?
Yeah. By the way, I'm like 5'6" and Irish, so I look almost nothing like Pau Gasol in real life. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really do it for me. He's a really good player. I think he's one of the most fundamentally underrated players in the NBA, and it's weird how people in Boston don't like him because he's a Laker and whatnot. But the notion that he's soft is so ridiculous. But anyway, for the Celtics, I'm not. It would make them better, sure. I mean, they desperately need somebody big who can do stuff and can get on the court. But I'm not seeing that as like, ooh, now they can rebuild toward banner 18, as they say around here, around him.
But they probably don't pronounce the R in banner. I'm just assuming there.
Banner.
What do you exactly? What would you do if you were Danny Ainge and you had ultimate job security? Because I think that there is the pressure to win now. I read your piece on the various ways they could go. Would you favor stripping it all down and just going kind of an OKC route and going into full rebuilding mode? Would that be your move?
Yeah, it's funny. Danny pretty much does have job security. I know people are, been mad at him, basically because of the Perkins thing. But the owners really, really, really trust him. He can do what he wants. He is pretty much carte blanche. If it was me, and this is where I get into trouble sometimes as a writer, because what I want to see is a team built completely around Rondo. Get him Josh Smith. They're buddies from Oak Hill. Get him people he trusts and likes. Get him a whole bunch of high flyers. Get him Nick Batum. Get him, dare I say it, a guy like JaVale McGee. I'm not sure if JaVale McGee is the guy, but a 6'11" jumping jack who can run the floor and protect the rim. Get him those guys, and let me see what that team is like. Because I'd be really fascinated to see what that team is like. Now, does that make total basketball sense? Probably not. I was talking to Nathaniel Freeman, to Bethlehem Scholes, about this, and I told him, "What would you
Name
say? What would
drop.
you say? Yeah, right. I know. Seriously, what would you say if the Celtics added Josh Smith and Gerald Wallace to Rondo?" And he was like, "That's the team I would see before I go to heaven." I want to see that team play. And when you look around the league, when you look around the East, especially, I mean, Miami's not going anywhere. Chicago's not going anywhere. Can you build a conventional team to go against those guys? I mean, I'm not seeing how they can. So go completely unconventional and take a shot with it. That's what I'd like to see.
I think that's a good play.
So
I
wait,
think
I'm
it's
sorry.
also interesting that.
Good.
Well, I think you answered that question. I also think it's interesting that word hasn't gotten back to Boston that Kendrick Perkins isn't very good. I guess my next question would be about the present. I feel like KG is very underrated right now, and I think that he's still a really good player. I wouldn't have thought it crazy to name him an All Star. I would have thought that it was that would have been fine by me. It's a very leading question, but do you think that KG is underappreciated because people are already throwing dirt on his grave?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Especially here too. It's weird. People have never really embraced Garnett here. I mean, they appreciate what he's done, and the thing with Perkins that people need to understand outside of Boston is people loved Perkins because they watched him grow up, and and he's kind of a tough guy, and they like that around here and everything else, but. Garnett here has never been. I think people have been waiting for the wheels to fall off since the day he got here. And so whenever he gets hurt or whenever he starts lagging, they're like, well, that's it. That was fun. Let's do something else. And some of that's on Kevin. He has not really embraced Boston the way other people have because he doesn't really need to at this point in his career. But is he underappreciated? Yes. Could he be an all-star? I believe so. He's totally fine with it, by the way. It doesn't bother him one way or the other. But yeah, Garnett to me is a totally fascinating guy, and it's weird that of all the trade rumors that have come up, not a single one has ever involved him, and I find that interesting.